Hey, parents, welcome to today's amazing episode. I am thrilled to interview Hilary Moses. She is a wilderness therapist years ago and went to be a parent coach long before I ever arrived on the scene. She is awesome. We are great friends now. I just think she's amazing. And she is going to dive into summer scaffolding, particularly for kids who are coming out of treatment, right? But honestly, any kid. Great information about how to help plan for your kid coming home, some ways to structure that, tone from parents, and just energy from parents all matters. This is a great episode on summer with your kiddos home. Whether you work or not, this episode is for you. Enjoy. Well, hello, Hilary Moses. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Beth Elmans. Thanks for having me.
I like the double name thing, because it just, I don't know, the legend Hilary Moses,
Oh, stop.
I know.
Just
Now
enough.
it's between us, but it's fun. It's fun. Now I get to kind of tease you with it.
So silly. So silly.
I know.
But thank
It's
you.
fun though.
Flattering.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Okay, what's so cool is we do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We coach parents. We love
Indeed.
parents. We love the parents. Yeah, which I honestly could not be more grateful for, that there are people loving parents.
Yeah.
It's
so hard. It's so hard not loving the parents, but what the parents are doing is so hard.
Yes.
Parenting is hard. Even when kids are kind of cruising along in the typical ways, it's hard.
Yeah. Like one of the very first things I wrote was this workshop called Parenting Sucks. Right? I mean, that's spot on. Parenting sucks.
My caveat would be, sorry, husband, parenting is great. Co-parenting sucks.
Okay, well, I haven't heard that
like,
one.
When one of us is away, and our kids are older now, but when one of us was away, we would parent that middle path, right? Each of us would go from our extremes and, do the middle thing. And when we were together, it was like, right?
Oh gosh, that is so true, right? I love that you brought that up. That's a thing for sure. Oh gosh. Okay, so today you want to talk about summertime.
I do,
which I love, because we know the parents are afraid of what typically, is less scaffolding, right? During the summer.
Yeah.
You kind of have to make it up yourself. It's pretty hard.
Yeah. It's really hard. Yeah. And you're working and you might have other kids and.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And you've noticed, I'm sure, what happens when your kid gets bored, let's say. That's a pretty hard thing for parents / kids.
Yeah.
Typically, we don't really, I feel like that is like a skill in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
What to do when you're bored.
Yeah. Yeah. And, in my obnoxious moments, I would say, well, if you're bored, it's because you're boring. So you need to figure that out.
I had somebody just say, boredom is a sign of intelligence. And I was like, okay, let's hear more about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So
boredom, being able to sit in the boredom, maybe. Anyway, we don't need to get into that. I'm so interested in that statement though.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about like why summer a little bit is so hard. Tell me some of the things specifically, like for kids, like coming home from treatment or all that kind of thing. So what do you see and find?
Yeah. And my brain is really focusing on that coming home from treatment piece. And I think there are similar concerns, even if you don't have a kid coming home from treatment, right?
Right. Fair.
And you said it at the start, which is the scaffolding, right? Like the transition is part of treatment. It's not treatment is over and now we're done. The transition home is part of treatment, and the floor just falls out, right when everybody needs it most. The structure, the scaffolding, the accountability, all of that. And then you're coming back where maybe some of your family system has changed. Certainly some of your friend groups have changed.
Yeah.
And there's but you're still back in the same environment, and there's no kind of floor to hold you up necessarily.
Yeah. And even the, the issue that I guess feels like it's a little underlying is just coming out of treatment in general is so stressful.
It's
It's
so hard.
so hard for these kids. Oh my
It's so
gosh.
hard. And the expectations for them are so high, and they're not high functioning 50-year-olds. And part of the
Right.
question is, as parents, are we high functioning 50-year-olds? Are we showing up? And what are we expecting of these poor kids?
Oh my
Right?
gosh,
It's
right?
so hard. And then friend groups, right? I mean, there's so much to say about summer, but not everybody comes home to a friend group that pushes you to be your best self.
Indeed. Yeah. That's an
And
understatement, right?
it's right. It's really hard. It's really
Yeah.
hard.
It is
Yeah.
really hard.
I think often there's, back when I was a wilderness therapist, uh, short story is there's a kid I connected with years and years and years later. We actually met at a conference, and at a NATSAP conference, or maybe it was a wilderness symposium. And he's working in the industry now, in the field, working in addiction and recovery. And he talked about how he came home over summer after a big stint at wilderness, after therapeutic boarding school. He came home, and one of the pieces for him is that his parents culturally had a lot of guilt about choosing to send their child away for support, and they hadn't grappled with that, and they were getting kind of shamed by their community as well. So they were steeped in this guilt and grief, and they saw summer as the vacation that he deserves because he's been working so hard. And he talks about how he played on their guilt. He played them, and just tanked. And he talks about how hard it was that they weren't solid, that they weren't resilient, that they were still kind of a mess. And he didn't have a peer group to hold him up, and this and that and the other. And he tanked, and he went back into substance using, and then about 5 years later asked his parents for more help and got himself into treatment. So, and he
Wow.
says, just as an aside, he said at that point when I saw him, that as he got to the point where he was mature enough to care about using skills, he still went back to the skills he learned in wilderness and therapeutic boarding school, which I think
Oh,
was really cool.
that is really cool, right? Because sometimes the kids refuse to use their skills for a number of years.
Yeah. Or it's just not capable of,
Yeah.
the stick to itiveness just isn't there. It's not there
Fair.
in the brain. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's totally fair. And what one thing that you're just bringing up is like parents sometimes don't grapple with their guilt. And so then it hovers and it stays. And then we are motivated by that guilt, right? We're motivated to pamper or set up a vacation. That I see almost across the board, the very quick tendency to honestly seek for forgiveness, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to make it better, and they feel bad. They just feel bad. Ugh.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
kids smell it from
Yeah.
thousands of miles
Oh
away.
my gosh. Yeah. And so then think about coming home from treatment during a school year where maybe parents are grappling with that, but there's something else happening. So you don't just get to be in vacation land, because maybe you're in your sports, or you're obviously in school or things like that. And then over summer, that's where the parents then kind of offer this space, this permission for purposeless drift, which is super corrosive to most kids, but especially to kids who are struggling and coming home from treatment, where, right, there's no expectations. You can binge watch all of the shows that you missed, and we'll let you stay up late. And one of, I guess I'll dive in just briefly, and we can talk about it if now's a great time, is one of the things that we talk to parents about, especially when bringing a kid home from treatment over the summer, is live true to the values that matter to you from day zero, from day one, right? So if um, compromise is important to you as a value, live true to it from day one, even when the kid tells you that, they've been eating crap and, for however many weeks, and they want their favorite meals or their candy binge or whatever it might be, like moderation and compromise. So we talk about So you can absolutely pick the first place where we go for dinner. And then after that, your brother's going to help us pick what we're having for food. And then mom's going to help pick because she's in charge of cooking. And on my cooking day, I'm in charge of helping, right? That it's not a week long. You get to be in charge of everything. Yeah. But live true to your values from day one. Don't allow for this window of, you know what, you're right. We have to apologize and make up for having sent you away. So do whatever you want for the first week. We'll turn the blind eye to everything. Live true to your values from day one. And I would say from day zero, especially from day negative 100, especially if there are siblings at home, because the siblings hear, oh, your sibling's coming home tomorrow. So screen rules are changing and this is changing and that's changing. And they hear, oh, my life is changing and it's my sibling's fault.
Right.
And that's an awful setup.
Oh, so true. And there is a momentum, right? When kids come home for treatment that you can try to, that's what you're saying, like try to tie into with that, from day zero type of thing. And it's a significant thing. And this also reminded me of kids who come home over Christmas break.
Oh.
It's a very similar problem. Is that because not only, I mean, a lot of parents maybe work through the summer, but many parents have a vacation around Christmas, right? And they're like visiting family and everybody's taking a break. I've had so many clients run into that, and it's tricky. It's hard to go from day zero kind of a thing. But values don't necessarily have to mean structure specifically, right? Although it can help.
Yeah. And when you think about a holiday break or coming home from summer, sometimes that looks like being okay with just asking them to help clean up the kitchen when you've been making something.
Sure.
Right. That it's, and we talk about that when kids are coming home from treatment on home visits, right? Their
Yes.
parents give them the vacation and they go back and then they have a vacation, but there's no practice of how are we working together through structure and boundaries and responsibilities.
And conflict.
Right? Conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so true. Gosh, I love it all because we both see it so much. It's just so nice to talk about it. How can a family then prepare for summer? What can they do? What do you have for them?
Yeah. So a few things. One is we think about the full structure to zero structure, and how can you create some. And we don't want it to be a controlled environment, right? You don't have a full-time staff,
Right,
to manage, right? So we want it manageable for everybody. And depending on the age of the child, also depending on the struggles that were present prior to them going to treatment, right? This is going to look a little bit differently. But even having some type of block schedule where there are a couple of to-dos and some expectations. Older teens, right? We really want to encourage work, whether it's a job, volunteer work, all of these things, which we know that we can't force as parents, right?
right.
Same with a block schedule, and especially if you're gone from work. But part of the conversation is let's break the day into 3 chunks and just look at a couple of responsibility things that you can do to help yourself, to help us out. Let's make sure to carve out downtime, right? Definitely want to support the screen time and the friend time and the play time. That's a huge part of what we want to support. So you're not coming in as a parent looking at setting up structure that's just about being highly productive and being responsible the whole time.
Right.
But having some blocks that you can get into and working on that collaboratively with the kiddos, I think is really important. And then looking at, I think part of the setup for that is that you want to be tied to your boundaries as a parent, not forcing an outcome or forcing a behavior. So for example, with work, let's say one of the agreements in coming home is working at least 20 hours a week for an older adolescent. And as a parent, you can say, hey, and these are the hypotheticals. I am happy to support you getting your driver's license. I am happy to, give you $20 extra a week, whatever it might be. I'm happy to do this. if I'm happy to support some of your wants, right? I'm happy to financially support you with some of your wants, right? Like you want to go to your movie with a friend. I'm happy to support that to
Okay.
some degree. If you are working a minimum of 20 hours a week, how can I help make that happen? Right? So how can
Love it.
I help you with applications? I'm happy to drive you wherever. How can I help make that happen? You get to then show up. The tone of this for the parent is important. You get to show up as the supporter, not
Mhm.
the enforcer. You're going to enforce your boundaries, right? So, but you're not playing a role of fill out those applications. You have to get a job. You have to go do that. You have to go do that. You get to say, how can I help? Remember, I'm going to follow through with my boundaries. How can I help?
How can I help?
How can
Versus
I
the
help?
annoying role, annoying parent role.
The pursuing nagger.
Yes, the
Yeah.
chaser for sure. Um,
Yeah.
okay,
Which I
so
think also gives, like, being tied to your boundary also gives a framework for when the kid comes, they haven't maybe done X, Y, or Z, filled out the applications, asked you to drive them to hand them in. Well, I guess that's all online now, whatever it might be. Um, and they say, hey, can I have that $20? Can I do blah, blah, blah? And you say, absolutely, once you've got a job for 20 hours a week. Right? How
yes,
can I
I love
help?
that.
Let's look at next door and what we can do to help neighbors out. Let's look at all of these things. Yep, I'm happy to do that once you're working at least 20 hours a week.
I like that. I like the setting up the tone, the positivity, right? The pointing forward. All of that is so helpful.
Yeah. And it's the yes with conditions rather than the
Right.
no, I'm not going to do that because you don't have a job yet. You've been sitting on your butt playing video games. You probably didn't even hand in any of those applications that you said you did. Right.
Totally true. Right.
Yeah. That tone has to go,
I,
especially for these kids coming home from treatment, but in general.
yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the changes that I think takes parents some time, to build that skill of yes and right versus
Oh, yeah.
no. No,
Yeah.
yeah. You're
Yeah.
just the same. You didn't learn anything. We wasted
Yeah.
money. Ah.
Eh,
Yeah. That's really rough, right?
yeah.
Um,
It's so overwhelming.
it's so overwhelming, right? So as we prepare, I guess, our family really for the coming home from a treatment kid during the summer, so many, like, I'm just going to ask about the or talk about the expectations again. I see
Yeah.
this a lot, right? A lot of parents see the opportunity of them coming home
Mhm.
as a way to make everything right, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, well now we're going to um get all the dishes done, and now they're going to do what I say, and
Yeah.
they're going to go to the gym every day like they did at treatment, and now they're going to, it's just like, and then all
Yeah.
of a sudden you
They're
have,
gonna be a higher functioning 50-year-old than I am.
yes, exactly. Even though maybe you don't go to the gym, but my kid will go to the gym.
Yeah.
you
Because
know,
they see how beneficial it is for them now. They get it.
yeah, now they get it. So, and I think a lot of parents, I don't know what the word is, but misinterpret or misunderstand how important environment plays in, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
The therapeutic boarding school versus the home environment, whatever, and especially like the summer environment. And I guess it felt like saying that, but here
Mhm.
tricky parts I think about summer is a lot of times the parents are gone. They are working, right? Trying to make up for the cost, the cost of treatment. Um, so what are your thoughts about that? Like, how do parents
Yeah.
um, deal with the non-presence of themselves, during summer, and here you are, you come home every day working your ass off, frankly, and your kid is like still playing video games.
Yeah. 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 Also, I mean, the screen thing is a whole thing, of course. It's its own world. And one of the things I would say is that parents sometimes think if I was just home more, I'd
Hmm.
be able to manage the structure and it would go better and, all of that. And that's also not true. Right.
Haha.
So, because then we become smothering and we become those managers rather than kind of stepping into more of a coach role. And
Uh,
most of these kids, all of these kids, these young people, teens, older teens, young adults, they need more trust than we want to give sooner than we want to give it. They need to try, they need to practice, they need to see that we are willing to have things be messy, because we have the resilience to work through it, which is one of my questions leading into, are you ready to bring your child home over summer? Is where's your resilience with
yeah.
working through this? Where's your skill set? Right. So a lot of parents are like, is my kid ready to come home? And we flip it around to, well, are you ready for them to come home? Because again, it's not a lobotomy. They're not a high functioning 50-year-old. How are you going to show up differently when the same behaviors resurface? Right. And that's coming home at any time. And okay, so parents gone all day. Don't presume that just because you're home, everything's going to go more smoothly. And set up expectations that, so let's say you do a block schedule and there are a couple of responsibilities in each of those blocks. There's maybe a check-in partway through the day. And when you get home and some of those things aren't done,
Mm.
especially in the first week, and I would say the first 2 to 8 weeks are kind of which is the duration of the summer.
Yeah.
If you're
Fair.
bringing a kid home over the summer, um, it's where you need to focus most of your energy and focus your energy and showing up with the best tone.
I love it.
And
Like you're
so
setting
you,
a precedent kind of, or
yeah,
okay.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then you come home and some of the things haven't gotten done. Your kid's playing video games and you say, hey, in 10 minutes, I'm going to ask you to set that down so we can check in about the day and set up tomorrow a little bit, right? So give them the cushion. There's a transition. Parent is back home. It's a big transition. It's important that you don't just dive into what got done, what didn't get done,
You're still
you
here.
know.
This is where I left you.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Have a buffer of as you're coming back home, and prepare for that, predict that moment and prepare for it ahead of time. So it's like, oh yeah, I knew this is where we were going to be. No problem. I'm going to go do some things. We're going to check in 10 minutes. And then you have a let's keep trying attitude. You look at it. What worked? What didn't today? All right. Looks like the dishes aren't done. Hey, before you pick up that game again, get those dishes done now. Right. We're going to keep trying. This is new. We're getting back into our rhythm. We've got this.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And the video game thing, man, I want to go there. And thinking about summer, especially when there's that maybe guilt driven permission to have a vacation, there isn't structure, et cetera, et cetera. I always want screens out of bedrooms, full
Yes.
stop.
Yes.
And if there is let's say a basement or something like that, which is the game area, and that's where the consoles are and all of that, then I even talk to parents that in this kind of weeks 2 through 8, can you lock that door? Is it a requirement that people have access to that all day long, all night long, all summer? How do we work with that? How do we build that into part of the expectation? In the first couple of weeks, we need to see some expectations getting done, some healthy, balanced living. And that's really what we focus on. What is, instead of it just being about screens, we talk about healthy, balanced living. If you're getting outside, if you're working, if you're
Yes.
doing this, you're doing that, happy to unlock that door for you for, whatever, however many hours you decide. And we really don't want kids moving into the basement and that becomes
Mm.
their room, right? So we need to really be ahead of that. And, you know,
Yes.
I think one of the pieces with screens that we talk about a lot is parents needing to decide what role they are willing to play with screens and with phones. A lot
So
of parents of older adolescents and even, parent funded young adults who maybe are still at home or whatever it might be, who are saying, well, they're 18 or well, they're 17, they've got to figure this out. I say, okay, well, you're going to give them an adult privilege of I'm not parenting it. They need to figure it out. How do you match it with the adult responsibility, which in some ways would be the bill,
uh,
right? If you're not going to parent it, which is a big privilege, what's the matching responsibility that goes with it.
Yes. Yeah, like just for an example, like missed lessons or something, right? Like a missed music lesson, right?
Mm,
I think that a lot of times that's partly a structure that maybe a parent would, a kid might ask for, and a parent say, amazing, let's get you a guitar lessons for the summer or something
hmm
like that, right? And then they don't go or they miss
Yeah.
it. And it's like trying to figure out how to help them be
Yeah.
responsible for that miss. That's what came to mind when you said that.
Yeah. And I think part of that to the parent is because this happens with developmentally typical
Right.
kids as well. Because you're wanting them to try out all these things. And so you commit and this, that, and then they're not interested. And I think as a parent, you have to look at what amount of money am I willing to invest and lose
Yes.
toward this thing that I want to make happen also.
Right.
Right. So if it's a guitar lesson that the kid is, begging for, great. Through working around the house or getting a job or whatever, I'm willing to pay for half of those lessons once you bring me your half of the money. Right. It's not
Oh,
an
I love it.
IOU. It's you show up first and I'll meet you part way.
Yes. Yes. No
Right.
IOUs.
Yeah. No IOUs. Yeah. And then when there are things that you're like, oh yeah, I want them to do this, I'm going to pay. Have that line of thinking of, well, what am I willing to invest and lose because I want them to do this? And that means that if they choose eventually not to do it, I knew that that was an option. I'm not going to shame them. I'm not necessarily going to make them pay me back because that wasn't the agreement from the start. And I think
Mm.
sometimes it's appropriate and sometimes it's not to have your kid pay you back for something. It depends on who's pushing the thing forward.
Yeah. So fair.
Yeah. I was also going to say, this is somewhat unrelated, but thinking about the summer and kids who don't have driver's licenses yet.
Yes.
And the trust, that's a really scary step for parents who are in a trust building place with their younger teen. And getting a permit or getting a license doesn't mean you get a car and are allowed to drive all the time, no matter what.
No.
But there are so many skills that it takes to learn to drive that are so important for brain development that even when the trust isn't there, I really, really, really encourage, especially over the summer when there's so much time, encourage parents to help their kids set that up. And there's so many kids these days who are too anxious to learn to drive, or the
Oh,
parents are
gosh.
too anxious for them to learn to drive. And I
Right.
think we need to work through that differently because of the skill building that driving takes or
Yes.
build. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually, that's what I've been seeing more of as well, is the anxiety is making it really hard for these kids
Yeah.
to even want to learn how to drive. I've seen that. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. And I have a whole thing about driving and how can you go at a really slow pace, but still encourage it. So step one is let's sit in the car for 10 minutes. Let's turn it on. Let's look at everything and then let's be
hmm,
done. Right. And so then step two is let's turn it on. Let's look at everything. Let's adjust everything. Let's back up and pull in. And that's it. Right. So what are the
nice.
very baby incremental
Right.
steps? Because we don't want to overly accommodate and not put them in that position because then they're not facing the anxiety, right? And working through it. But then the other thing is once you have a kid who is of driving age and could be driving, one of the things we talk to parents about is, all right, well, since you could be driving and when you are driving, you'll be helping to contribute to gas and so you're going to start contributing to gas, whether
Yep.
you're driving or not. Right. And then be clear that when you could be driving and you're not, you're now fully on my schedule. I'm not bending over backward anymore to bring you to your play dates.
Ah,
You're more
coming
dependent
home
on my
from work.
schedule.
Sorry.
Yeah.
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 Parents are coming home from work to like drive. I'm like, what?
Nope.
No, please don't
No.
do
If
that.
they could be driving, absolutely not. Those behaviors of parents need to start to shift so that there is more impetus and motivation for the child
Yes,
to work through the reasons that are keeping them from driving.
exactly. Sometimes, or a lot of times, that space for the kid to step up into their, the role that they could. So needs
Yeah.
to happen.
And sometimes when it's not anxiety and kids are like, oh, well, when I start driving, I have to start paying for gas and I don't want to do that. Then that becomes the reason they're not driving. And that's why we say, hey, they need to start contributing to gas for the, and not for school, not for getting to and from school, but for the fun things.
Right. Yeah. I
Mhm.
love it. I think let's move into, and we kind of talked about it a little bit before, but I really want to dive into that structure, especially for summer, right?
Yeah.
The desire for a structure and a scaffolding versus like control. So where do you
Yeah.
think it just flips? And what do you think flips it, right? Like you're going about, you're creating a scaffolding, you've maybe prepared and tried to make your best, foot forward. And then where do you find that parents slip into control or manipulating kind of a thing?
Mhm. I think when fear of the other shoe dropping, I hear that a
Ah,
lot from
yes.
parents, right? Like when that starts to resurface because they're seeing their kids sit on screens for too long, I would say is a big trigger,
Yeah, huge.
right? Um, and
Wrong friends sometimes, or quote, wrong.
yeah, friends that you're scared of them being with,
Yeah.
right? Which I think the friends piece, I'd love to talk about that more too. But and so then I think it's fear driven, and
Yeah.
when our anxiety increases, we try to fix that with control,
Yes.
right? Which then builds more tension, escalates behaviors, and stirs up more fear and worry,
It
right?
does.
Um, and I think it's okay to it's it's necessary to notice the fear and to be able to speak to that without it becoming controlling. So, for example,
Mm.
um, I see you on your devices, and I'm freaking out that we're heading to the old story, and so I'm going to come in more controlling and more intense. Instead, say, "Ooh, I feel my fear coming and my control coming, and I want to take the phone and throw it through the window, and I'm going to choose not to do that. Can we come up with a different plan? Can we try something else? I'd love to share." And I'd even like, so I was talking with another parent this week about her older adolescent coming home from boarding school and um, the fear that he's not going to sleep with devices in the room at night. And we're not setting up a situation where she's going to take the phone because we don't want them getting into a physical thing.
Right.
But part of it is saying, hey, I would love to not consequence you. I would love to not manage your device. I would love to not use these tactics to get you to have some healthy sleep. We got to come up with a different plan. And I'm going to try 5 times with you to come up with a plan that works before I move into that more actionable parenting role. And I'm going to tell you each time, like, hey, this is round 2. We got to try something. We've got a few more
Oh,
tries before I take the more controlling route, which might be I cancel your phone on our plan and you can get your own phone, which is a whole other thing because parents want to be able to track their kids, which
ugh,
I hate as a reason
I
for
know.
them to be able to do whatever they want with their phones. But so my taking a more active role with parenting is going to look like this, and this. And I'd love to not get there. Let's keep trying for me to not get there.
Let's keep trying. And you're telling them and you're helping them understand, like, this is the attempts, right? So I love that.
Yeah. And it's coming from a place of I really want the healthy sleep. I'm going to do everything I can to make it challenging, but not impossible for you to stay up all night. Right. I'm going to make it challenging, but not impossible for you to stay up all night. And that's where I'm coming from because that's the value I believe in.
Right.
And I'd like to do that without consequences or threatening loss of privileges. Like I think we can be past that.
Right. Well, I love the idea behind this because it's like if you can learn how to manage yourself or your screens or your sleep, then I won't have to step in.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that's so helpful because I'm always try to remind, myself or the parents I'm working with, the ultimate end goal, if you will, is raising adults, right? We're not raising children, we're raising adults. and trying to get their brains to, well, learn and
Yeah.
grow
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
connect,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah. And I think kind of going back to the broader like things to pay attention to when you're bringing a kid home from summer and or for summer, and thinking about this situation, it's so important to look at incidents and not patterns. I talk
Okay.
about puzzle pieces a lot. And so that means, okay, we set this rule, kid broke the rule. That's a puzzle piece. It's not the full puzzle yet.
Yes.
Right. So reminding, and so that's a puzzle piece. And how I respond to that is a puzzle piece. What happens over a few days is a puzzle piece. How they're doing with the job or the school or getting outside is a puzzle piece. Right. So don't place meaning on one puzzle piece as though it's the full puzzle.
Yep. That's, I
Yeah.
love that analogy. That's a really great like visual, I think I have. Um, I had an experience this probably a couple years ago where I was building a puzzle with my little guy
Mhm.
and we were having so much fun. We were being silly. And this is just me as a parent. I realized it is not about, this is going to sound so silly, but it's not about finishing the puzzle. It is
Right.
about the journey on the way to the puzzle, which I feel like really goes with what you're saying. It
Yeah.
took me a while. Maybe sometimes I'm thick-headed, but I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's about the journey." And that's what I think you're suggesting. It's like each little thing's a puzzle piece. It's too soon to tell what this puzzle looks like. I think so many times our
Yeah.
brains as parents go back to like, of course, it goes straight back to crisis and oh my God, here we go again. Nothing's changed.
And if you can say, oh, this is one puzzle piece, and have the next question be, what do I want my puzzle piece to look like in
Ah,
response to this? Right. So the
I love that.
ownership part, like knowing that relapse for me in the family systems theory, relapse isn't the kid doing the bad thing again.
Mm.
It's the whole family relapsing to the pattern in response to that.
Yes,
Right.
agreed.
Which I want to go back. I know that we have some time constraints, and thinking about the structure for the summer,
Mhm.
um, two things. One, for folks who are creating home agreements, heading home over the summer, we talk about how the power is in the parenting, not in the piece of paper.
Oh, right. Like in
So
the paper that somebody hopefully didn't sign because I hate signed contracts between parents and kids. I'm sure you do too.
right.
Is that what you mean, right? The
Yes.
paper. Okay.
Yes. Yes. That is correct. Yeah. And so know that the power is in the parenting, not the piece of paper. And that means you need to have a process. You need to expect that it's not going to go as smoothly as it is written. You need to have a process for decision making. There's going to be things you didn't think about that are important to have in that home agreement. And there are going to be things that are super unnecessary that are in the home agreement. Have a process for review and have a process for decision making that helps slow it down, bring in critical thinking, and allows for flexibility because you just don't know what it's going to look like.
Q has, I tend to be surprised at how awful we are at predicting the future. It sounds so silly, but when we pretend, as a society, as parents, that we pretend we know, and it never happens. It's always different, right? And I think you and I, maybe as
Yeah.
parent coaches, try to help predict and prepare, and then it's always like, oh, who knew? Who knew the color green was going to show up? Well, we thought
Right.
blue and red were okay.
Yeah. What's our
So
process? What's our
what's the
process?
process? That's right.
And along with that, um, I think when you think about parenting energy and especially co-parenting energy and the things around which you want structure, that it's important to really just put all your energy into the top three
Yes.
things that are like the high risk things.
Yes.
Everything else have a process for, but put the bulk of your energy toward the top three high risk things because it's just too exhausting. It's too
Ugh,
tiring, and that's part of where things start to fall off. Is that we set ourselves up for way too many things to manage. We don't really focus on what's most important, and then we all get
absolutely.
exhausted and tank.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness. And if, unfortunately, I believe that some, maybe I shouldn't say that, some programs um, fall into that and are encouraging parents to make a long list. And I just
Yeah.
would like, it's just so unhelpful. It doesn't
Yeah.
work.
I see those
Nobody,
lists sometimes and it's
yeah,
like, okay, and have whatever, maybe it's showering, right? You have to
right.
shower every day, which I have an opinion about that. And then I say, okay,
Yes.
talk to me about your kids' struggles with showering. And they're like, oh, they've never struggled with showering. And I say, great. Then it doesn't need to be on the list of expectations.
Exactly. Like
They've
this is
got good
not,
hygiene, take it off the list.
seriously, this is not the time to be creating like robots. I just, yeah, it doesn't work. So, yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you wanted to talk about friends for a minute. So I wanted to give you a chance to do that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I know that you know the language of green, yellow, red friends, right? We
No,
talk about who are the friends that we want to make it challenging but not impossible for them to spend time with. And I think
right.
that phrase, which is actually was taught to me by one of my mentors, who's one of my coaches who works for us, Lou Vaughn. She taught me this language. Make it challenging but not impossible for them to dot dot dot. And so you might not be driving them to go see those friends. And our kid is a red friend in somebody else's household, right?
Sorry.
Our
So
our
true.
our kid is a yellow friend in somebody else's household. And I think it's really important to invite any of the friends over because they need people too.
They do. Ugh.
Right. And I think that one of the biggest challenges in transitioning home over the summer, when you've been away from your peer group for so long and they've got all their own things going on, um, that loneliness and isolation is one of the biggest challenges that happens coming home over the summer, coming home at all, but coming home over the summer.
Yes.
Because it's so hard to then put yourself out there and make friends. And so figuring out as you're looking at your structure, what are the social things that are on there? So we talk about the kids who tend to have anxiety and tend to isolate, right? That's screen time, which I can support. I can support screen time. And I believe that you have community there. I
Yeah.
believe that, right? They're not fake friends. I believe that. And happy to support that after you follow through with going to the climbing gym or this or that, or do this group thing, right? This, and that doesn't necessarily have to be a group social activity, but I'm going out into public where there will be other people. And so
Yes.
then inviting friends over, I hear so often from parents, I'm not going to invite that kid into my house. They did drugs together in my house last time they were here. And we want to be cautious, make it challenging, but not impossible for them to do the bad things, to make the bad decisions when they're with those people.
Yeah.
Right. We
Yeah.
want to make it challenging, but not impossible. And we want to give everybody a second and a third and a fourth chance because our kid is a red friend in someone else's household. And
Yeah.
we want them to believe something different about our kids.
Right. Yeah. And this is a super soft spot for me because we found out that some of the perceptions that we had about our son's friends were shockingly off, right? Because you hear about one incident and you're like, well,
Yeah.
Jared or whoever is such a bad kid because you did dot 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 with him. And it turns out, no, Jared actually really cares about our son or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just think, and I know I think it's a tough ask. But I think it can be really important to get to know some of those relationships, especially if they're ongoing. And it's like, why does, your daughter keep hanging out with her, like, or him
And
or whatever? Like, there's some interesting information, I think, there. And there are boundaries, but to have somewhat of an open heart for another human on the planet who is
yeah.
having a hard time. And, our experiences, we became vital to some of my son's red friends, as in, an adult that they could trust. And so I know that's tricky and it's not for everybody, but that was our experience. And so, you
Yeah.
know, it's a tricky one. I'm like, oh my gosh, this kid is a human,
Yeah.
a young
Which I
human.
think that piece that it's tricky and not everybody's ready. And that to me comes back to the question of prior to bringing your child home, what are you ready for? Where's your
Yes.
resilience? What are you? So could I invite a red friend into my house? Could I be a person for them? What would it take for me to do that? And then look
Yes.
at what the skill set is. And again, it's not a requirement,
Right.
but it's really something to dig into. It's really something to dig
Yeah.
into.
Well, and it can take years and years and years, which it did. It took us years and years and years dipping our toe in and like, oh, huh, this kid's matured. He's changed or
Yeah.
whatever, whatever. So I just
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
not say, I can't not say it. So, but I thank you
Yeah.
for, it's true. It's not for everybody. And to go slow for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Is there, and thank you, Hilary. This has been amazing. Is there anything else you'd like to kind of end with or make sure parents know how to get a hold
Um,
of you, for example?
yes, I'll say kind of my last words of wisdom are if you're not a working parent, find some hobbies. If you're bringing a
Yeah,
child home from treatment over the summer so that obsessing over them and tracking them everywhere doesn't become your hobby, because that's going to be awful for everybody.
that is a wonderful last minute help.
And yes, I
Yeah.
mean, obviously our book Home
Yes.
Strategies for, I'm going to get it here, Strategies for Making Home a Success During and After Treatment. A lot of what we're talking about is in here.
Perfect.
My website is solutionsfamilysupport.com. We've got a bunch of like 6-week group series, parenting group series coming up, led by our professional coaches, and that's awesome. But
Awesome. Well, if you
yeah,
guys want more information, there will be lots of information in the show notes.
great.
And Hilary, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here
So good to
today.
see you. So
Yeah,
good to
good
see
to
you.
see you too. Okay, take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.